Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be going over the latest episode of Doom Patrol, which is the 5th episode, and is also the follow-up to last week's that was kind of the first of a two-parter. So anyways, let's go ahead and get into it. Now in this episode, there are a lot of different time periods, so it really just jumps around. But we start off in like an underground punk club in 1977, where you have Jane, who basically looks the same age as she is now, and I'm not really for certain which personality she's in at this point, maybe Hammerhead, but she kind of gets into a fight in the punk club. Now she ends up getting taken back to the mental facility that she's in and is pretty much just beaten down by one of the guards. And this is just our first glimpse at the mental institution that she's in that's going to play a really bigger part later on in the episode. After that, we jump to present time, where the eye is still open in the sky and people are there listening to kind of like I don't know, he's some kind of religious nut, and he's giving a little sermon about it being the end of days and everything like that. There's also a camera crew there with a news reporter lady, and it just kind of made me laugh. It was like more chaos in Clovertown. I don't know, I thought this was very comic booky. Well, anyways, as she turns around, she's looking at the eye in the sky, and she kind of questions, is it looking at her? And then all of a sudden, I guess it fixates on her, and she suddenly blows away into dust. She is just the first victim, however, because a lot of people in the town start, getting taken away like that. So, and then panic ensues. Back at the mansion, they have apparently went inside after the eye opened in the sky, and Rita is desperate to find the boy that she lost, and she's trying. You can tell throughout this episode she's trying to be a better person, and this is just her main thing, is trying to find him, make sure he's okay. In somewhere else that we don't really know, you've got Mr. Nobody, and he's freaking out because he's not the main villain anymore. He's just so self-aware, and I don't know, that just kind of gets on my nerves a little bit. But he's got the chief there, and they kind of come to an arrangement where they're going to help each other out in order to take on the Decreator, and you'll later find out more about what's going to happen because of that. They realize that in order to beat the Decreator, which was basically brought forth because of people having faith in this, that they need to create a nemesis. So therefore, it is the chief's idea that they need to have someone who's very persuasive and can start their own religion, one that kind of counteracts the Decreator. And of course, he says, the person they need is Jane. It's a very specific version of Jane. And because Mr. Nobody realizes that there's going to have to be a little bit of time travel, and since his power seems to be somewhat limitless, I guess he's able to time travel. And then we kind of go back to more flashbacks as they are searching for the right version of Jane that they need. They show you Jane again from 1977 at the punk club. We see Jane in 1976 as she's strapped down to a table with a doctor injecting her with something. And then we see Jane in 1978 as she meets the Doom Patrol for the first time. Then Mr. Nobody takes us back to 1977, where we do meet the right version of Jane that we need, and we see her, she's strapped down to a table with this psychologist kind of talking to her, and she suddenly brings forth a personality that we have not met before. This new personality of Jane's is called Dr. Harrison, and I think it's by far been my favorite one of hers. It just completely changes the tone of the actress. She's just really phenomenal. Dr. Harrison is, very put together, has a bit of an accent. She's got like a gray streak in her hair, icy blue eyes, and she has the power of persuasion. And as she's in this flashback scene, she is, attempting to tell the doctor to stab his own eye out. And then out of nowhere, she hears Mr. Nobody in kind of a voiceover, and she becomes, loosened from her restraints. Of course, she doesn't even really know what's going on at this point. Back in the present day, Rita she finally finds Elliot, and I really don't know how he survived after being the sacrifice to the eye in the previous episode. They don't really ever explain that, but somehow he is alive, and Rita finds him. And she's talking to him, and she's trying to encourage him I guess she's trying to mother him to some degree. And she tells him, what's something you've always wanted to do? We have time. We'll do this. It doesn't matter that the world is ending. We're going to do this. And before he's going to answer her, the eye looks at him and suddenly he's gone. Rita, of course, is very upset, but in her grief, she turns around and she sees the chief walking towards the mansion. And yes, again, he is walking. And of course, then she has no clue how this is even possible. The rest of the remaining team find him and start talking to him. And I guess it's kind of played for laughs, but he's trying to explain where he's been. But for some reason, every time he says the word Mr. Nobody or someone in the group says Mr. Nobody, he vomits. And like I said, this was just played for laughs. It was just very weird, though. He explains to them the plan that they have going, how they're basically trying to make their own cult up to counteract the Decreator. And then you go back in a flashback to Dr. Harrison, Jane's newest personality, to us anyways, back at the mental institution, and Mr. Nobody is talking over her, telling her his plan, how he wants her to create this cult. And she then kind of walks into this room full of the rest of the people at the mental institution. This whole sequence of events really cracked me up. It was just lots of scenes of Jane basically influencing the whole mental institution to start following the recreator. She's very charismatic. She's very, I don't know, she's just starting her own cult. And as serious as that sounds, it was the way it was done just really cracked me up. It was just hilarious. The way she was telling them what to do. It's still, they were telling her some things too that they found weird about the religion. And instead of, debating them, she would just accept that into the religion. And it went seamlessly because they were just going ahead and believing it as well. She tells all of the mental patients that, once they see the Decreator in the sky, they will be called forth to bring about the recreator. And at first she tells them it's going to be, a boy or a person who has the scripture written all over him, much like Elliot was in the last episode. But one of the patients says something about, what if it's a dog? I like dogs or something. She takes that into consideration. So they're like, yes, it'll be a dog, but you won't be able to see the scripture on them until the bell rings. As this is going on, Mr. Nobody is talking over, and he says something about how Dr. Harrison was perfect, of course, but her one flaw was that she was deeply insane. And as this is said, one of the patients says, well, what do we do? When the Decreator shows up, and she says simply dance. And then you see this scene, and I mean, I actually paused it because I was laughing so hard, where the modern day mental institution patients, I guess they've gotten out over the years. Well, here they come, and they just start running through the streets, and they start dancing, and they're playing Ring My Bell, which was stuck in my head for like the rest of the day, and it still is pretty much. And I don't know, it just cracked me up. They just start dancing, and then all of a sudden they start getting taken out by the eye. And the whole scene was just hilarious. Now, as this is going on, you have a scene where Robot Man and Jane are still stuck in the snow globe in Nurnheim, and out of nowhere, through this door comes one of the mental institution patients. Of course, she's older at this point, but it was her task to make Jane remember Dr. Harrison. And when she's talking to her, of course, this triggers something inside Jane, and Dr. Harrison comes out. As Marilyn, the mental institution patient, she kind of does her part to hold off the creepy doll-looking person and her acolytes. Dr. Harrison and Robot Man sneak up to the bell tower where they ring the bell, which of course, in modern day, the dog that they've captured that has the writing on it, whatever, it causes the scripture to come off the dog, and which brings about the recreator, which is just another eye in the sky that looks similar to the Decreator. By doing this, apparently it gets the Decreator gone, and then we kind of come back to a scene at the house where Niles is kind of saying his goodbyes to the team without really saying it. I mean, he is, but he's doing it his own way because he, of course, has made a deal with Mr. Nobody. I'm assuming saying that, once this was done and they had saved the world, that he would return to his captor. Jane and Robot Man show up just in time as Mr. Nobody has this voiceover where I guess they can all hear him at this point because he's taking the chief with him, and the chief says something to him about, you swore you wouldn't hurt them, and Mr. Nobody says something like, well, I'm not the one who's going to hurt him. But as he's doing this, he's programming something in Cyborg, something that kind of so in his arm, one of the cannons that he has, and it's causing it to go off. That's pretty much how the main storyline ends. After that, we do see another flashback to Jane in 1970. Well, I guess 1977, because this is right before she arrives at the Doom Patrol, or to meet the Doom Patrol, and she's still as Dr. Harrison, and she's back in the psych ward, and somehow she gets overturned to this other vehicle, and when once she's in there, she turns around and you see that it's the chief who is rescuing her from there. I guess at this point he's heard about her and her powers, and he's come to get her. And he kind of talks her down. She's very upset, but he kind of talks her down and, delivers her back to the mansion where she meets everyone. This kind of matches up with the scene that we saw earlier where she is first meeting the Doom Patrol. Mr. Nobody gives her this final suggestion, though. He tells her that once everything's over with the Decreator, he needs her to look for something, and then it shows, I'm going to say the present again, and it's Jane. She's painting. We don't really see what she's painting, but something kind of hits her, and then she's like, what's the Doom Patrol? And that's kind of how it ends. So I don't really know where they're going with this part. But overall, I really liked this episode. It was just such a mix of humor and drama and action, and I really liked it. I definitely enjoyed this part more than the last one. And Diane Guerrero continues to impress the heck out of me with her acting skills. She's just absolutely amazing. So anyways, guys, I'm going to leave this one here. Hope you enjoyed it. Give it a big like and subscribe if you already haven't. Leave some comments down below, that kind of thing. Anyways, have a great day, guys.